I'm here with Roel Schouwenberg. He is the principal security researcher at Kaspersky Lab. How are you doing today?
Very good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. So he's going to discuss some of the financial fraud and developments around that and how it's impacting enterprises. First, I want to kind of start off with some of the advancements in ATM heist, I guess you would call it. Do you think some of the stuff like sending text messages to take the cash out or like the Plautus malware, do you think that's incredibly novel? And if it is, what is driving, these advancements?
I think what the bad guys are trying to do is look at new methods of exfiltration. So the companies have been boosting their security with all the recent incidents. So they're looking for ways to exfiltrate the data that are not going to be monitored or as easily monitored by the network guys over at the different facilities. Obviously, since we discovered the Chewbacca malware, I think a lot of point of sales companies and so on, they will be blocking Tor traffic, because obviously why would you have that type of traffic in that network? So we will see more novel ways of exfiltrating data from point of sales networks as well as ATM networks.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering, where does the manufacturer usually fit in, in this ecosystem?
Well, the manufacturer could very well be a target. Obviously, if the attackers are able to implant something at the factory, then they would have a great opportunity. And in fact, this does happen. There are a few known cases of this happening. So that's obviously a very scary situation. And that applies not just to ATMs and point of sales, that applies to everything. We know the supply chain is very, very vulnerable. So as we beef up our security in general, that's where more attackers will want to go, and it's going to be harder to discover.
Okay. So obviously there are a lot of targets as far as getting into an organization or committing fraud. One of them is the end user. What kind of discussions, I guess, are being had on who's responsible for a personal account, if some type of major fraud happens on one person's account?
I think most of the banks have been generally just reimbursing people when they suffered fraud, but at the same time they're looking at ways to incentivize users to maybe care a bit more about security, and I think that's happening from two different angles. So one angle is some banks may actually say that you need to be up to date with all your security patches, you need to be running anti-malware software, and if that's not the case, we're not going to reimburse you. And the second avenue is basically banks looking at new technologies that they can use and integrate to protect the user and the transactions.
Mm-hmm. So you guys uncovered the Mask 7-year-long APT campaign, and it was targeting industries all over. How are enterprises coming to you guys in dealing with this? Like, are they actually concerned that intellectual property theft will have a major fiscal impact? How does that impact you guys and how you interact with the customer?
They're definitely concerned. We see people coming to us because maybe they're interested, or maybe they have seen some of the attack patterns we've been discussing. And I think certainly there has been a lot of attention in recent times about intellectual property theft, especially. Mm-hmm. So people are worried because this is hitting their bottom line. They don't want to lose their competitive advantage, and they are looking to better protect themselves from the mask for one, but also any type of future operation.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into EMV, since everyone's turning their attention there after the Target breach. What are the drawbacks or the concerns if we do turn to it on a massive scale?
Well, EMV is not new technology. It was invented 20 or so years ago. So that obviously is not gonna stand the test of time when we are in 2014 now. So it was not made with all the security threats in mind that we have today. The thing is, with the U.S. Basically being the only major country in the world without EMV, we are now rushing to, or somewhat rushing to try and adopt it. the thing is, though, it's been adopted in the rest of the world for quite a number of years, which means that the bad guys have been looking at EMV and how to maybe exploit some vulnerabilities in how EMV is implemented at different banks and other financials. So what it basically means, we're going to see basically the tail end of the advantages of adopting EMV. So if we're going to see more EMV attacks, which I think we will, we're going to be suffering from those. So even though, let's say, Europe has had that advantage for a number of years, we're going to see less of that.
All right. Well, thanks for being with us today. Again, I'm here with Roel Schouwenberg with Kaspersky Lab, and we want to make sure you guys tune in with us next time at scmagazine.com.